Hello. Beep, 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 beep. Hello, everybody. How you doing? Welcome to the court of the Edijester. It's cold. I've finally given in. I've closed the windows and put the heating on for the first time. It's the 29th of October, so that's quite a record for me. However, I'm now pretending that it's the middle of summer by wearing this shirt. I refuse to give in. I won't do it. It's not that I don't like the cold. I don't mind the cold. I don't want to give the electricity companies 1 penny of my money, which I'm sure I said last year. Today I want to talk to you about EDI and DEI and its fetid history. Most people don't understand where it came from, and most people don't want to understand where it came from. And certainly the people that are involved in the EDI, DEI industry and are making such money at giving people hell in their employment. But before we start, there was an old joke, an old Soviet joke that was told years ago by people who were serving in the Gulag or by those who knew about the Gulags. And it would go something like this. Three men are having a conversation in a Gulag, and one says to the other, "What did you do?" And the first one says, "Well, I arrived late at the factory, and so they accused me of slowing down the revolution and the victory of the proletariat." The second one answers, "Well, I arrived early at the factory, and so they accused me of wanting to be favoured and promoted over my fellow workers." They then turned to the one who asked the question. "How about you then?" they said to him. "Well, I arrived at the factory right on time, and so they accused me of owning a watch from the West." Now that's slightly funny. It's even funnier if you understand equity. It's funnier still if you understand equity and the situation in the USSR, particularly under Lenin and Stalin. So I'm going to take a little trip with you today. Let's do some of this stuff. Let's find out what it is I'm going to rattle on about, because we think EDI DEI is a recent invention. It's not. It's been around a very long time indeed. In fact, it's been around since around about 1917. That's how long it's been around. Strange that, isn't it? I wonder where it came from. Well, EDI and DEI today tends to manifest in ridiculous training sessions that you're forced to go on by your employer, as if you're living in some modern day organizational gulag. You will take ally training. You will take trans awareness training. You will take LGBTQ training and whiteness training and getting over your race training and how to speak to people properly training. It's social engineering on a massive scale being carried out by corporates at the behest of a fetid elite system who thinks that this is a good idea. But why do they think it's a good idea? Where's it come from and how did it get here? Well, we've got to go right back. We've got to go right back to Russia, to the USSR, to the time of the Holodomor, which killed millions. During that period of time, if you didn't agree with what Stalin said, you'd find yourself in trouble. At that time, it was called political correctness, which is what EDI, DEI is. So Comrade A might say, "I've spotted a factual error." And Comrade B might say, "Yes, but it's politically correct." In other words, the truth doesn't get a look in. Trans women are women. Everybody is racist. Sound familiar? This is the roots. Political correctness is the roots. And that became a great tool for the Soviets in the mass murder of the kulaks during the Holodomor. It became for them a socialist triumph. They thought that what they were doing was a good thing, and it was done on the back of anti-science, as of course it always is. You don't have to wait long before we get to the point where we're at the simmer, the beginning of the Cold War between the 1940s and 70s after the end of the Second World War. And then all of a sudden we've got Reds under the bed and the growth of leftist academia. It's not that McCarthy wasn't a horrible person. He was. He just wasn't wrong. The corruption of academia begins in earnest during that period of time, but doesn't reach its peak until the 1980s and the 1990s, when language and what you say becomes much more important. And for the first time ever, queer theory raises its ugly head. This is the beginnings of censorship and culture wars, the attack on meritocracy, and everything else that has dripped from the fetid arse of academia ever since and has now firmly entered our society. You can then tie in critical race theory and critical social justice, all of which originated between the 1970s and the 1990s. And we begin not just the queering, but also the praxis-driven and intense activity of the lunatics looking for power and oppression in everything and wanting to ensure that you recognize that you're systemic from the minute you're in the womb to the minute you drop dead in terms of racism. You're systemically racist for your entire life. Nothing you do can change that. Nothing you say can change it. That's how it works. All right, that's how it works. Now it appears to have dominion. Equity is being pushed everywhere and people don't realise what it is. People think, oh, no, it's just one thing, it's just being kind. Hashtag be kind. It's got nothing to do with it. We've got corporate bloat in the form of the mad, insane training courses that I mentioned earlier on. And you've also got child experimentation taking place under the guise of gender affirming care and trans. People who dissent are going to prison. Thousands of them. And if you're not aware of this, you need to be, because of what they say online, because it's said that they have encouraged violence. We don't have what's called the Brandenburg test in this country, which we need, which means incitement to violence should only apply if you name a time and a place. This is the kind of behavior you'd expect to see from a Soviet government, from a government that is intent on suppressing the population under the belief that the state is everything. It's not rare. Happened in Russia, happened in China. We've seen it elsewhere. We know what's going on, but there doesn't seem to be much about it. Is there a national curriculum capture? Are teachers teaching this in schools as if it's a good thing? The end of this is societal collapse. We know that because we've seen it. But yet we still got the cheerleaders singing on how wonderfully EDI and DEI is and how you have to attend this training session and that training session and work. Some of them that I've seen are ridiculous. I spoke to a friend of mine from the NHS this week, and it's still going on. Dozens of them. Not one, dozens of them. Often presented by incompetent idiots who have been chosen because they happen to be a certain colour or a certain sexuality, and they will re-educate the NHS staff in understanding how one treats a LGBTQ plus person, or a BAME person, or a BIPOC person, or whatever the hell the ridiculous acronym they're using to lump everybody together is this week. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter whether you're gay. It doesn't matter whether you're straight, whether you're black, white, pink, purple, green, or a grapefruit. It honestly doesn't matter. You can see through this. The identitarian left will use your identity against you, and if you are stupid enough to sing Kumbaya and clap along with it, then you will deserve everything that's coming to you. Everything. Because at the end of the day, the individual is sacrosanct. We are responsible for our behaviour. Stop looking to mummy and daddy state to tell you how to be. If we don't fight against this, the future for the next generation and the generations that follow is looking particularly grim. From digital ID through to breakfast club for schools and everything that can possibly be done to disempower the parent and empower the state seems to me to be happening. Speak up now before it's too late. Because one day, you see, if you don't, what will happen is you'll simply wake up one morning and the clock will strike 13. And I think with that reference, I'll leave you to get on with it. As always, it's great to talk to you. I'll wait to hear your opinion in the comments. Thank you very much for watching, and thank you very much for your support. See you later. Bye-bye.